one of the tools we use daily in BVMS is the mapping feature. We can put a map in the logical tree, we can throw some cameras on there, and we can have quick access and kind of an overview of where those cameras are placed in their environment.
Yeah, I mean, maps can really be used at any part of the facility to give your operators that much more ease of use. Obviously, the logical tree can be broken out into folders for the different areas of the building or the property, but having that visual map really gives the operators the ability to move around or see what cameras are available, and then be able to retrieve live video from them relatively, quick and easy. So.
Okay, and we can separate internal and external maps, right? We can have both.
Yeah, absolutely. So really, it's mapping. You can add JPEG, PDFs. So there's different file sources that you can use for importing maps into BVMS, and then you build them as you need. So it's not just cameras. You can add other items to the maps, and you'll get active displays and status from those devices. Let's say when a camera sees motion, you'll get color indications, or when an alarm happens, maybe from an integrated intrusion panel, you'll see status updates from that as well. So it's really just an overview glimpse of what the system's doing currently, and then also allows you to navigate video, which is the primary source of it, as needed.
You mentioned it. We can use offline maps, and then in the more recent versions of BVMS, we can actually utilize the here maps, right? The online maps. If I've got a full campus to cover, multiple buildings, I can do that, whether online or offline, right? I'm able to aggregate those maps together and have different buildings.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really just depends on what the user requirement is and how they want to apply the mapping engine to their environment. So like you said, we can do it offline maps. They can upload maybe floor plans that they already have that they're used to. If they want to cover perimeter and then add those maps on top, you can use here maps, online maps, and then just add those on top of those different spaces within the here map engine. So different ways you can build it, whatever works best for you and your operators, really.
Great, yeah, and we can actually go up to 100 layers, whether that's sub-layers or internal layers of a building. We haven't quite reached that limit yet, but I definitely challenge you to try to find a building we can do that with. We also have a licensable feature called map-based tracking. Kind of gives you the ability to have a logical flow in the cameras. It can tell where it lives in its environment, detect nearby devices, and kind of has some pretty cool functionality. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think map-based tracking really brings a new perspective to how maps are used. Specifically when you either have, and I know we mentioned this before, if you have a newer operator that's not or hasn't had a lot of stick time yet, and are still getting used to it, I mean, there's going to be times where they don't know where the next camera is in the logical tree, especially if there's hundreds of them. Or you have the unlikely event where there's an incident going on, and everything's heightened in that moment. Depending what your incident plan is, that response is crucial. So how do we make that easier? You have map-based tracking to do that, and I think what it brings to the table is allowing, the mapping allows the user to stay focused, stay on track, and be able to track suspects or whoever they're trying to track easily without worrying about where the next camera is in the tree, or without worrying about where that next camera is on the map.
Right.
In that sense. So I think it's a really useful tool from that perspective.
All right. Well, let's dig in and take a look. We've got the op client up right here. But let's take a look at maps and map-based tracking.
Okay.
All right, so first and foremost, we've got a map up here in the viewing pane on the right. I think that's an important distinction. You have things in your logical tree, whether it's a camera, intrusion panels, websites, etc. We've talked in our other videos today about things you can put in your logical tree. Maps are no exception to that. So we've got a map of the outside building here that we're able to simply double-click and bring it right into the viewing pane, or drag it over, if you will. Tell me a little bit about these yellow icons we see here on the map.
So this is our one of our facilities, and just as an example, we have 4 cameras on the exterior. So we're representing those with these icons, and what you can do is simply hover over each one of them, and you'll get a preview of what the camera is looking at. And then if you needed to focus on those devices, you could double click and pull up that camera specifically.
Okay, great. Let me double click this front building 2 camera.
So again, that gets you right to that image to get you eyes on from the map.
Okay, great. I see that we have this camera enabled for our map-based tracking feature, right?
Right.
Up here at the top, I can initiate map-based tracking, and that's going to bring us into the specialized map-based view.
Correct.
All right.
So map-based tracking, its job, and like we're seeing here, is you had that camera up the front building 2, looks like, which is represented here in this larger window, right? And that's going to be the camera that initiated the map-based tracking. What happens from there is the algorithm will populate the 4 closest cameras around it. Now, we have 4 total, so that's why we're only seeing 3 around the top and bottom, but it's gonna retrieve those cameras for you automatically based on the placement of the cameras on the map. So from there, if I'm looking for somebody or trying to track somebody around my perimeter, I don't need to worry about the logical tree. I don't need to worry about anything else other than using these icons to, as soon as they step into the next field of view, and if you select one of these and double click them,
we've actually got some forklifts moving around
There you
outside
go.
right now, so we can go ahead and double click and see where the movement is happening.
Yep.
I don't know if you saw, but it moved between the suggestions for D and then into C. So if we had a person of interest or a perimeter situation going on, we're able to track that individual between screens. Simply by clicking and moving to that camera, automatically populates the central view and then repopulates the outside with the next suggested logical cameras. So we can see here we now have A, C, and D. So A, C, and D. So we have a nice reference versus the map and the suggestions of where those cameras are on the map as well. Now for this map, we're just working with an exterior, right? We're able to actually have multiple levels, as we discussed. I believe we have that assigned to this map here. So let me go ahead and bring it up after we close out map-based tracking. All right, looks like we have an exterior view and then an interior view between 2 of the levels. So here interior, we can go ahead and double click and go to our multi-sensor camera, reinitiate our map-based tracking, and here we've got our interior.
Yep, and I think it's important to know that you don't always have to use this method of, like, we're going to the map and double clicking the camera on the map and then initiating map-based tracking. There's other aspects on how this could function, right? You could have your cameras in your facility generating an alarm on, let's say, motion. If someone's in a hallway, BVMS can prompt that video up to you, and then you can activate map-based tracking. So there's different ways that we can implement this to allow you to, once you're generated the alarm, you can initiate map-based tracking and start this process.
Right, this can just be part of the new workflow that we had previously, right? As you mentioned, an alarm can come up, or we can work directly from the logical tree or even our favorites to go to a direct camera. We know where it is, and then we initiate the map from there.
That's correct.
Okay. So one of the things that I definitely wanted to point out, the PTZ utilization on map-based tracking is actually really, really cool. So here we've got the multi-sensor camera that I initiated. We've got a PTZ mic next to us here. And if we click between these devices, we should see that mic adjust for the camera when I come back. As we saw, the PTZ swung exactly where our camera was looking at. Can you speak a little lightly to how this is kind of calibrated on the config client without, going too deep?
Yeah, so I mean, each of these, you can see that each of these cameras has a viewpoint, right? So you're going to tell the system basically what this camera can see or what's in its field of view. For the PTZ piece, it's really not too bad. You're going to set the position that it's currently looking at. So you'll get a preview. You can reference that preview and then associate the viewing cone to where it's currently at. From there, the map-based tracking assistant takes it. So at that point, you'd be able to click around into these different points of interest within the facility or externally, and the algorithm or the assistant will automatically adjust the PTZ to that viewpoint and give you eyes on. So I think that's a huge addition to just not having this ability with fixed cameras, but being able to actually automatically reposition PTZs when this is active is pretty important.
Yeah. So I found that this map-based tracking assistant is a great tool for navigating multi-sensors like the one we have here. We can see, regardless of what the name of the camera is, we're able to click in that direction and automatically get the field of view that we're most wanting.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, great. Well, I think that the map-based tracking is a fantastic tool on top of our already existing maps features. I appreciate you sitting down with me, taking the time to run through, and looking forward to the next video together.
Sounds good, Mike. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brad.